God-given natural rights are held sacred and exercised. This is your warning. Tyranny, fascism, and censorship will not be tolerated. Ideas will be exchanged freely. Rigorous debate and open discourse is encouraged. If you are weak and your beliefs are fragile, you should leave now. Prepare yourself. We are now live on the Dangerous Liberty Podcast. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Dangerous Liberty Podcast, where we know that security at the expense of liberty is slavery. So I want to welcome everybody. My name is Gary. I'm your host tonight. I have my beautiful, lovely co-host and co-host of life.
Thank you.
Chris. My wife, Summer, over here. Say
hello.
Hi, Summer. Hi, Chris.
How you doing?
All right, and back there on the back, we got working as producer tonight, Sean. So I want to welcome everybody. We have a very special episode. And I'll tell you right now, I really do appreciate everybody's support with these videos and everything else. I can't tell you how important I think that this topic is. I think at the end of the day, you know, we need to realize I am not under any delusion that at the end of this, we're going to have some sort of major accountability. You know, I know we have all these Republicans up there talking tough like they do every time. I don't care if it's Benghazi, if it's, you know, the 2020 election, whatever it is. At the end of the day, we never see any sort of real accountability. And I'm not sure that we'll ever see that with this. But what I think is important is we at least establish a record. And because this was an assault on our country, it was an assault on our election system. And I think it was at a minimum, some sort of conspiracy to take out an official, you know, President Trump. You know, they wanted to remove one of our choices. And I don't know how directly involved at this time that the government was. And we're going to talk through all that. But I think it's really important that we get this on record. And number one, I appreciate all the kind things that people have said in the comments of all the videos. For those of you out there, the haters and the critics, number one, you know, I'm not some professional, you know, investigator. I'm not, you know, some news reporter. I'm just a guy that, you know, small business owner that cares about this country deeply. And I want to get the truth. What I'm not going to do, and I know a lot of people get upset about this, what I'm not going to do is latch onto one theory or one narrative and do everything I can to prove that one theory or narrative. I'm going where the truth takes us. And you can like that or you can not, but I'm going to stick to, you know, the truth and have an integrity with this. And if I don't believe like you do, I'm, you know, send me some videos, send me some information. I'm willing to take a look at everything, but I think what we got to do is we got to stick to the truth. And that's what we're trying to do here tonight. What we're going to do in the future, what we're doing with our team up with Chris Martinson over at Peak Prosperity. I'm looking forward to working with him. And, you know, that's what this is about. So a couple of things just for the format tonight. Number one, I thought it was really important to do this interview live. Number one, so that you guys see from beginning to end, you know, that we're not pushing some sort of narrative or anything like that, or going to do disjustice or injustice to our guest tonight. We want to make sure that he says everything that he wants to say and relay his story in the way that he wants to. So, you know, it's not us sitting back there editing. What we're going to do is we're going to interview him. We're going to talk to him tonight, and we want you to be part of that, but we're going to save questions, comments toward the end. Another thing I will say is that if you guys, what I will try to get as many people's questions and comments up there as possible at the end. You will get priority with the super chats. You know, this stuff ain't free. We appreciate the support. If you guys want to support us on Patreon, our links are down below for that. And we really do appreciate all the support that we get for that. We want to continue to do whatever we can to bring you this information. I've talked enough. That's one of the biggest critiques is I talk too much.
No doubt.
So without further ado, we're going to bring on John and let him introduce himself. He's going to tell us who he is, where all this started, and we'll go from there. John, welcome. We really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us.
Hey, Gary. Thanks for having me. Yeah, my name's John Malice. I live in the Pittsburgh area. I was at the Butler rally. I'm the one that shot the most watched video of the rally, which is where I was walking in the back of the building, and there were 3 shots fired, followed by the other 5 shots. And that's the video that a lot of these guys are doing a forensic analysis on to try to determine whether there was 1 or 2 shooters. I was actually working with an investigator that was doing an investigation for ChuckGrassley's office. and they did the analysis on the video, and they determined that they were actually all shot from the same weapon. At first I didn't know whether there'd be one or two shooters. I didn't know all the facts, and as things started to come together, I started to kind of see that it was probably just one shooter. When you add it all up together, that's just kind of what it showed to me.
Great. So if you will, John, just take us back a little bit, kind of what was going on, where you guys were. I know we were talking before this, you were there with your family. Just from beginning to end, where you were, I also want to hear, we talked a little bit today about the work that you've done and your impressions with the interviews that you've done with ChuckGrassley's office, as well as, other media. I think that is a very important part of this story of kind of the impression that you got and their willingness to listen to you on that. But let's start from the beginning. Tell us, moments before the shooting started, what took place, what you saw, what happened, and I'll let you take it from there.
Sure. We tried to get into the rally, through the front door, but it was way too crowded. The line started, they opened the line at 1:00, and there was already at least 20,000 people ahead of us. So we decided to leave the rally and kind of drive around the area to look for a better vantage point where we could still see the rally, or at least hear it. And we were shocked to find a nice fence line that people were already starting to line up on. It was really right outside the stage without any security or anything like that. So for us, it was perfect. Great parking. You walk across the street and you're right there. You get to see Trump. So that's how we ended up there. And I was there with my family, my 2 daughters and my 1 daughter's boyfriend. So there was 5 of us, and just kind of enjoying the day. And once the rally started, we started hearing a lot of noise from people yelling, hey, there's a guy over there. He's walking on this. He's crawling on that, pointing up at the roof. And we kind of didn't pay much attention to it. And probably about a minute later, we heard somebody yell, somebody get the police, get the police. And then pretty quickly, 5 officers showed up and they started surrounding the building. And at first we thought they were there to kick us out, because we shouldn't have been there. But it turns out that they were there really looking at the guy on the roof. And it wasn't until one of the police officers pulled his service weapon that we really kind of felt like there might have been a true threat. So I told my wife, hey, maybe we better move out of the way. And we started walking, and that's when I started recording. And probably about maybe 10, 15 seconds after I started recording, you heard the first 3 shots ring out. And then I spun my camera around, and there were 5 more shots. And then you could hear a counter sniper shot. And then the final shot, which was the kill shot. You heard that last. So
yeah, that's interesting. So a couple of things with that, there's been, let's talk about some theories real quick, because
sure.
Folks, I have a real concern, and I'm just seeing it. Look, for those of you that don't know my background, I came from special operations. I've worked with different intelligence agencies and things like that overseas. I know what this government is capable of, and I see it. I really do believe that all those resources, capabilities, and assets that we had that were pointed in the direction of Iraq, Afghanistan, and all these world threats. Number one, I think those organizations have been, and this is pure speculation, just to clarify, but I do believe that these organizations have been infiltrated with very politically motivated people. And I really do believe that once that, we kind of pulled out of Afghanistan, Iraq, I do believe that those resources and capabilities have been turned toward the American people. And I see the disinformation that's taking place in the media. And I think we need to be careful about that. And I do think with all these different crazy theories and things like that, and some of them not crazy, but there's a, as we talked about, a synchronicity, Chris.
I like that word.
that I see taking place in the media. And I think it's all these crazy theories that are being presented. And I think it's meant to undermine anybody that wants any legitimate, of anybody trying to hold the government accountable. It's going to turn into this meme, right? It's going to turn into the Tea Party. It's going to turn into, don't listen to those guys, So even if the best case scenario is that the government failed and they're trying to cover this up to just get away from any sort of accountability, they'll use that as like, you're crazy. This is what happened. This is what's going on. So I think we need to be aware of that, and we need to be careful about promoting ideas that are going to undermine the integrity of real voices, of real possibilities. I did not mean to take on the mantle of, going out there and disproving things. Like, to me, that's just crazy. Like when somebody says, hey, I have a video of somebody on a water tower and they have a gun and I can see them, and then they send me a video of a blurry shadow and they're like, you can't see this person has a gun. You can't, like, I don't know what you're seeing, man, but whatever you're taking, I want some of that. Like, I can't get on board with that. Not to mention that as a sniper, as someone that's done counter sniper operations, like, the worst place on earth to be is a water tower. And we can talk about all those things. So, like, yes, I am out there trying to say, hey, look, this doesn't make sense. And this is why, so that we can stay away from what is implausible and make sure that we are focused and we have our attention on things that are genuine.
So we don't get distracted.
We're not getting distracted by nonsense, right?
Right.
So with all that being said, John, one of the theories that will not die, because it was promoted by somebody very smart, and I think they're earnest and sincere, is the idea that the shots came from that lower level. You were probably at some point in time less than 10 feet from that building. Is there any chance that there were shots coming from inside those windows on that lower level of the AGR building?
No way. I don't know if you could tell from the video at all, but those lower windows, that building is actually kind of below grade.
Yeah.
So it goes downhill to those windows. Not only that, you have a chain link fence. It's bad enough to shoot through a chain link fence when you're right in front of it. But if you're recessed back in a room, right, which you would normally be if you're trying to shoot through a window, you're not going to be at the window. You're going to be back about 10, 15, 20 feet, or maybe even another room, shooting through another room, through the window, up a hill, through a chain link fence. It's not going to happen.
The other thing that I was surprised to see, or was very indicative to me on the possibility of that even happening, was there were so many people right there in the front. Like, I think it'd be very difficult to even get a clear shot, whether you're shooting through a chain link fence or not. But there was just throngs of people right there between that building and Trump.
Yeah, well, there wasn't even a line of sight.
Yeah,
he was below. He would have been below the stage, shooting up.
Yeah, and folks, that's one thing that I keep hearing. People keep talking about trajectories, saying, "Hey, the shooter was on top of this building and he was shooting down at Trump." I've been meaning to look at a topographical map of that, but that's one thing that I did notice right away that John is talking about is, number one, that building is below grade. It's in a depression. And then Trump was actually, that terrain looks to me that it continues to climb, but Trump was on a 5 or 6 foot. He was about a 5 foot stage. So that put his head at around 11 feet. So it's very possible that the shooter was pretty much even with Trump. He's definitely not at a major lower elevation that I think most people think, given, just the video or given their own perception. So no, I appreciate that. So John, you start seeing all these cops show up and they're kind of going around that building. The more video that I see, the moments prior to shots being fired, it's surprising to me how many cops are actually around there. There's actually more than I thought originally. What were they doing as far as, were they yelling at this guy or anything like that? What was going on? What were they doing?
Well, they couldn't see him. Mm-hmm. He was behind the ridge line, and you could kind of see him, I guess, from it would be the eastern side. I'm not sure. Maybe it's the northern side. I can't remember how it's oriented. But it would have been the side that he climbed up, where they show the ladder, which the ladder was not his, by the way. I'm pretty sure that was the Secret Service's ladder, or the police officer's ladder. So they couldn't really see him, and the roof itself was not, it was like corrugated. It had these, he was able to dip down into kind of like a valley.
Yeah.
And he stayed pretty low. But you kind of had to be on the other side, which was further away from him, kind of where my video ended. But he was much further from that area, but that was higher ground, so you can kind of look down on him. But he would have been hard to see, and that's why the one police officer was propped up to try to look at him, and that's when Crooks pointed his weapon at him, and then he fell off the roof.
Yeah, and I know, again, I sent that video out today with that clip of where one of the witnesses talked about he heard reports coming over the radio that there was blood in the bathroom and they were possibly looking for a second subject. I do realize that, apparently there are reports that a law enforcement officer will cut his hand or something like that. And that's probably
Correct.
where it came from. And,
Yeah.
that's a very plausible thing to me. And folks, that's what we're going to do. When we get information, I'm going to put it out. I don't, there was a comment today that said, look, you need to corroborate information before you put it out. Corroborate, you're not corroborating anything. Nobody's, what you're hearing multiple statements. That's not necessarily corroboration. We don't know what's true and what's not. My job, I feel like, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to put information out. I'm going to give you my assessment of that based on educated guess from what I know and what I think.
I think we need to qualify that though, because we're not putting out every piece of information that
no.
comes our way.
No, absolutely not.
There is a vetting to some degree,
without a doubt,
for lack of a better word. We're not just going to throw everything out there that we get or that people tell us or that people say. There's got to be something to back it up, a photo, a video, something to back it up.
Right. And again, as we're in a rush to get new information out, some of those things are going to be wrong. I'm going to be wrong sometime. But what I can tell you is that the moment that I realize I'm wrong, I'm going to, have I ever realized I'm wrong with you? The moment that I realize I'm wrong, I'm definitely going to come in and try to correct the record as much as possible. That's all we can do.
I still like the comment. I think it was on your video though. Somebody put that said, Gary, why are you rushing to try to corroborate all this information when the FBI is going to come out with a full report in 2081?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
2081.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know what you're rushing.
And it'll all be redacted too. So
Just have some patience, folks.
Yeah.
The government's going to provide the answers that we need. Yeah. So, from your perspective, John, what else did you see? What else was going on that, kind of grabbed your attention? What is something that you want people to know out there regarding any of this, I guess?
Well, it's not so much what I saw, but, after the fact, and I got home and I started really thinking about it. And I thought, why didn't the counter snipers take a shot?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why did they let him get the first 3 rounds off? For those first 3 rounds, why didn't they take a shot? And then it wasn't until after his second 5 rounds that they finally took a shot. So I took it upon myself to kind of recreate the scene, acting as the shooter, as Crooks. So I just kind of went to the range. I brought a table with me and I set it up on top of some boxes to create the slope of a roof. And I thought, okay, I'm going to approach this thing as if I'm going to take the shot. And what I discovered was it was the roof, barely had a slope on it. And since it didn't have much of a slope on it, it was kind of hard to hide. And as soon as I set up to get in the prone position to take my shot, I noticed my magazine hit the roof and I couldn't get low enough.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, well, that's a problem. How would I do this then to not be seen? And I decided to rotate my weapon all the way to the left. So it was laying flat on its left side. And by doing that, I was able to stay concealed. Now, although the roof was kind of low, it was still above where Trump's head was. So he still would have had to rest the barrel on the ridge of the roof in order to tilt it downward to get his shot. But I believe that the rifle was on its side. And also another thing, I don't think he was this great sniper that was aiming for Trump's head and hit his ear. I think he was aiming center mass because he had no magnification at all. Yes. So my guess is that he would have been aiming center mass, missed his chest, and hit him in the ear. And furthermore, too, and Fox News did let me get a little bit of this out in my interview. People have to remember that, he had a lot of adrenaline going. His heart was probably pounding. Yeah. He was probably having a panic attack. He just had to struggle to get onto a roof. So physically, he was fatigued. He's on a hot roof wearing shorts and a T-shirt, getting burned on a hot metal roof. A police officer just popped his head up and looked at him. People were screaming at him. He's got seconds to make this shot. Mm-hmm. I seriously doubt he took a breath, lined up his sights on Trump's head, and squeezed that trigger. He put that reticle center mass and just started pulling the trigger. And that, Fox did let me kind of get some of that out. But as far as the weapon being on the side, as more information came out, it kind of led more credence to that theory. One of the things that the conspiracy people were kind of pointing at is when the officers first went on the roof, they found 5 shell casings off to Crooks' right-hand side, which is consistent with an AR-15. The ejection port ejects the casings to the right. But then 20 minutes later, another officer shows up on the roof, and they count 8 rounds. This time, there's 3 additional rounds on the left of Crooks. So then everybody's saying, oh, that's impossible. All those rounds would have been on the right. Somebody came up and just threw 3 casings on the ground or on the roof to his left without thinking. Therefore, that must mean there was a second shooter. Well, that and
or what they're saying is that those additional casings were planted essentially.
Yeah, or planted, right.
Yeah.
So that's the conspiracy there. So also, whenever they took a shot of his weapon, you could see the sight. It looked like a red dot, 0 magnification sight. And also, he had on the right side of the weapon, he had additional sights that were set up, kind of like a, like when you normally you'll have a.
It was a 45-degree offset. Yeah.
Yeah. So he had the offset sights on the right-hand side of the weapon, which were they were deployed, so they were opened up to be used. So what I did was I went back to the range, this time without the table, and I just set my weapon on its left-hand side flat, and I pretended like I had the offset sights, and I fired off rounds. And sure enough, the first 3 rounds, and they ended up on my left side because the rounds eject up and to the right. So when the weapon is sitting on its left side flat, they eject up and to the left. And then for the last 5 shots, I got up in the prone position and I kicked off 5 rounds. And of course, those 5 casings were now on the right side. So that scenario proves it's definitely possible for one person to fire, 8 rounds, have 5 on the right and 3 on the left.
So you're thinking that maybe that initial officer that saw the 5 rounds, in all the chaos, missed the 3 on the other side.
That's what I'm thinking, because in his mind, he understands how those weapons work. He sees where Crooks is laying. He looks to the right and sees 5 casings.
Right.
Plus, after that, we don't really know what happened between that and the next 20 minutes. Also, they could have found those rounds, a minute later.
And they're looking, they're up there on that big roof. They're looking for all kinds of other evidence. It's easy to overlook rounds. Yeah. So a couple of things that you kind of hit on that I think are really important. Number one, if he did, for those of you who don't know, like when you turn a rifle sideways, we call that, I'm sure there's a much more technical term. In my shooting world, we call that junkyard prone. So what you're doing with that, folks, is you're actually turning your elevation into windage and your windage into elevation. You have to dramatically offset your point of aim to get to that desired point of impact when you do that. And you need to know what that is. So you need to be aware of that. So if he did that, that makes sense. The other thing that I'll just say is that what we see with the trajectories that we know is exactly what I would expect to see of an untrained shooter, right? He's stressed. We don't look, you guys we have no idea what was going on with his rifle. We don't know if his rifle was zeroed well. We don't know what type of real capabilities that he had, what type of training that he had. I mean, as far all we know, his freaking battery on his EOTech died. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is that he even hit Trump for a novice shooter or even a decent shooter. He probably didn't understand his offset. I got a quick little super sophisticated graphic I'm going to show you in a second that I don't think people realize when we're talking about shooting at 140 yards with an AR. Like none of that. Like there's so many different. We train people in firearms almost every weekend, right? So we have carbine level 1, carbine level 2. Carbine level 1 we normally have on a Saturday. Carbine level 2 is on Sunday, and we will zero everybody's rifle on Saturday. They come back Sunday, we recheck 0. And I can't tell you, I mean, it's not all of them, but probably 10% that show up on that Sunday, same rifle that they used all the day before, for whatever reason, they've lost a 0, whether their gun, wasn't set up correctly, whether the optics weren't tightened down correctly, whether they actually shifted something. You don't know how good his rifle was. That might've been a shit rifle with shit ammo.
Banged it on the roof getting up there. I mean, whatever.
Who knows?
And then you add in all the panic. I can only imagine the panic he felt even going up there, but then to know that the police were on to
that
him.
Roof was probably 120 degrees. While he's climbing up there in shorts. Yeah. So,
knowing you're going to get smoked as soon as you squeeze that trigger.
Most likely. I also pull us up two screens. I know what you got going on, Sean, but The other thing, let's talk about the second shooter theory. And I'll be honest with you. I have not been a big fan of the second shooter theory. And here's why. And you guys let me know what you think on this, because it doesn't make sense to me. And because the idea is that we have this deep, dark, shadowy element of the government, which, trust me, I believe exists. It's there. They've decided that they're going to pull off one of the biggest operations that they have ever been a part of, and that is to assassinate a former president. So it's kind of a big deal. So they decided that they're going to come up with a patsy. I'm buying it. I'm with you. I'm on board right now. So they get this patsy, and what they do is they take another guy that I would assume we're talking about is, part of that organization, a highly trained long-range shooter, somebody that knows what they're doing, very competent, very capable. And then we go through everything it takes to set this up, to organize this, to make this happen. And then at 140 yards,
They miss.
said long-range shooter misses. Folks, I could stand offhand and get 10 out of 10 on a target at 140 yards. So that's what we're proposing, that not only did he miss once, and look, things could happen. Maybe he was aiming at his head. Maybe this long-range shooter, this highly trained, capable, resourced shooter knows what his ballistic offset is. He's actually intending to shoot Trump in the head, and Trump turns. But Trump was up there for about another second and a half, 2 seconds. I would have gotten a follow-up shot. And I wouldn't have been, and that's me right now. Like, if I'm doing a crazy operation like that, you better believe I'm going to be out there training every single day. And I'm already done a reconnaissance of that situation. If I determined that, pre-planned that this is where we're going to do this from, I know that Trump, the podium was up probably for a couple days, or at least some sort of indication of where Trump would be. I got a pretty good idea. I would pre-plan that out, but we failed. All right. That doesn't make sense to me. And that's the part of the second shooter theory that I've had a hard time. And I'm just telling you guys honestly. Now, I will say, until last night, I had ruled out the second shooter theory at all. And part of it was because of all the sound analysis. What I can tell you when it comes to the sound analysis, and I know everybody keeps putting this up there, and you got to listen to this person, you got to listen to this person. The problem is there's 5 or 6 people on YouTube that are very competent, including Chris Martinson, very capable people when it comes to this audio analysis. And they're coming up with vastly different conclusions. So I have a problem with that. But I did get a call last night, or I made a call to a gentleman that contacted me. He works for a big corporation. I'll just leave that. He works for a big corporation. What he does is high-level audio for Hollywood, for the government, for video games, among many other things. I verified all his information, and the information that he told me was pretty compelling. He basically said, Gary, there's 2 sound signatures there. And I also gave him some, I steel manned his position. I was like, well, look, if we had a shooter that was doing exactly almost like John talks about, if we get a person over the ridge of that roof, now we have basically the front of that roof resonating sound, and we get 3 shots off. And then we pull that rifle back because Trump's went down. He's no longer worried about taking super accurate shots. He comes back off that roof line, and now he has that rifle on a resonator that's pointing the opposite way. He's also probably going to shift his barrel and shift his magazine port, or his ejection port. So that will dramatically change the sound, or at least in my mind. That guy had to think about that. He's like, you might be onto something there. He's like, but I still do think that there was 2 sound signatures. So
By sound signatures, he
says there's two firearms specifically.
He's using his SME.
He said his feelings on it were that if there was 2 shooters, they use the same gun. They're very similar. He said, and I asked him, I said, from 0 to 100%, what is your feeling that we have two different guns? And he said 100%. So maybe that's true. I was that completely changed my mind on the 2-shooter theory. And then today I talked to John, and then I also, right before I talked to John, I got off the phone with another eyewitness that we're going to have on tomorrow at 10:30. I, definitely highly recommend that you guys tune in. 10:30 a.m. And he gave me some different information, some eyewitness information. So I'm back and forth, but the point here is that I'm going where the information leads me, and I'm not ready to jump in both feet on any theory, but if we find additional information that says there's 2 shooters, I'm willing to listen. I just don't understand. I don't understand. If I was part of that operation and I was the guy in that rifle, if I was the guy on the rifle, and I had a patsy down on the roof, Trump would be dead right now. And I'm not even the most capable guy out there. There's guys out there that do this stuff all the time. We train long range. It's kind of our bread and butter. If you guys go check out our channel, I'm a former Green Beret. I'm a former sniper. I've done counter sniper operations. I've worked as a tactical instructor for federal agencies. We do this for a living. I'm just telling you that if it was a competent, decently competent person, Trump would be dead right now.
There's, not to shift gears a little bit, but to kind of shift gears a little bit, to kind of go back. You alluded earlier at the beginning of the podcast in reference to John. I just want to make sure John gets an opportunity to talk about the information that he's tried to talk to others about, that he's tried to talk to the media about, that he's tried to talk to, trying to put out his information, and has been kind of shut down in a few ways. And I just want to make sure that John has the opportunity.
John, tell us about your impression on that.
To talk about what his experience with media and what information that you want to make sure gets out there.
Sure. And actually, it's everything I just said that they couldn't let me get out. Time constraints and things like that. Plus, it was hard for them to understand. When I started explaining to the one engineer or something, I can't remember what he was, at Fox News before I actually went on air, I was explaining to her my theories, and she asked questions like, what's a casing? What do you mean it ejected? Or, and I was trying to explain too, like, also the AR-15, how it separates. There's 2 pins, you pull it apart. And even Christopher Wray didn't get it, how someone would have time to reassemble an AR-15 fast enough. Like he said, he wouldn't have enough time to reassemble it. And I think I sent you guys a video where I'm at the range where I do a sample of how you reassemble an AR-15. It takes like 3 seconds. So trying to explain that to them, they just didn't get it. And in my first interview I did with Fox, it was about a 15-minute long interview, and they used about maybe 15 seconds, and it was just anything that I said was anti-police or anti-Secret Service. That's all they really wanted to hear. They wanted to hear how the Secret Service screwed up. And that's really kind of all they were interested in. But at least later on, they did let me kind of spit my theory out a little bit about how I didn't think Crooks was aiming at Trump's head. I thought he was aiming at his chest, especially too when you look at his follow-up shots. His follow-up shots were all over the place. If he was so good that he aimed for Trump's head and he hit his ear, I guarantee you those next 2 shots would have been somewhere within 2 feet of the first shot. He would have hit members of the Secret Service. He may have hit Trump again, but he didn't. He didn't get anywhere near them. So that's why I was trying to make the point to the press that he was aiming center mass. He was not aiming at his head.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like that they were kind of cherry picking information from you to fit a narrative, and then they kind of weren't interested in the rest of your information.
Right. It was very anti-Secret Service and failure of leadership and failure of this, failure of that. And I it's like I was telling Gary, you can't really blame the guy behind the scope. You got to blame the guy behind the desk. The guys that were up, on the rooftops, they did what they could, and they may have saved our lives, because at the end, Crooks turned around and aimed his weapon at us right before he was shot. And that's actually another thing too. When the new Secret Service director came out and said he doesn't know how his guys didn't make that shot with Crooks in the prone position, with my theory, he wouldn't have been in the prone position for the first 3 shots. He would have been concealed, because the weapon would have been flat. He would have been flat. slightly looking over the top of the side of the weapon through those iron sights.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't have seen him. That's why they didn't take the shot until after he got up and got into the prone position. And now he's exposed, fires 5 rounds, and immediately was met with a counter round.
Yeah,
So-
and just so that everybody visualizes this and understands this, again, we're talking about junkyard prone, where we turn that gun sideways, and that's exactly what it's for. We're doing that so that we can lay it on the top of a car or even a curb. Let's say you got a 6-inch curb, which, you know, that ridge line looked like it was about 6 inches or so. And that's what it's going to allow you to do, is reduce your silhouette. So we turn that gun sideways. Now my eye is lined up with an optic or a sight as the gun is sideways. So instead of having to expose all of this, I'm only exposing this much.
I was about to say, you might want to just explain when he says gets up into the prone, what that means.
Yeah. So again, he's laying with his gun over that ridge line, and then he's going to get up into the prone, and or
Which means
maybe
he's-
even
he's
on his
up on his
knees
elbows,
or up on his
basically.
elbows. Well, prone doesn't necessarily elbows,
Well-
but yes, he's increasing his overall profile in relation to the snipers, especially the counter sniper team that ended up taking him out. So, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on there, and I think, you know, it's easy to armchair quarterback all this stuff, and without a doubt, the failure was the communication. The failure was definitely the advance. Folks, if you haven't watched it, the very first videos that I put out on this subject was a interview with a former counter sniper Secret Service team member, and it was very informative to me.
It was awesome.
Counter sniper operations are very different from sniper operations. It's apples and oranges, and I knew that. But even counter sniper operations with the Secret Service and their mission set, their capabilities, what they do is very different. And also the other problem, and people keep coming with all these great solutions. Well, we just need more people. You're right. We needed more people on the ground. But the fact of the matter is that there is a 45% turnover rate with the Secret Service. Those guys during an election year are working on average 100, and it's not even unrealistic. It's pretty common to get 200 hours of overtime per 2-week period for those folks. So it's a understaffed, under-resourced federal agency,
With
if there's
high
such a
burnout.
thing, with a high turnover rate, because these people are worked so hard. So
Well,
yes, they
the
should
other
have
thing-
had counter surveillance teams on the ground. They should have had a lot of other assets on the ground that they didn't have. They should have had counterparts with the local PD, more so than they are claiming that they did. There should have been a counter sniper response team. And what those are guys that are directly in communications with the counter sniper, that are with local law enforcement, saying, hey, I see something suspicious, go check this out. So they can react to it before they decide they need to take a shot. So
No, and going further to that, what he also said, and I don't think a lot of people know this, and you would if you watch the video, but that guy you interviewed said that Trump's detail was very abbreviated for what normally is of an election year within so many days of an election date and all that. It was pretty much
Very slim.
skeleton crew of what should be accompanying him. And like you said, there should have been all those other teams there. There should have been more with him, even in uniform division, and just all of it. It just
100%.
blows my mind, which makes you think further. What's really going on?
Yeah.
Why does he have the skeleton crew with him?
John,
Why?
what was your experience with ChuckGrassley's his entire staff?
Well, I didn't work with his entire staff. There was a gentleman, I can't remember his last name. His name was Jonathan. They were coordinating with the Washington Post, and somebody was doing analysis of the entire scene, whether it was sound or position of people, what were the Secret Service agents doing, what were the local police doing. So we had a pretty long, discussion about that. And then they also went through the video with me, section by section, and got my opinion on different things. But they were fine with most things. But as I started to bring up my theory about how the shooter actually made his shot, they did not seem interested. And I told the guy, I said, look, you've got people that are going to look at this conspiracy of 3 casings on his left and 5 on his right. They're not going to let that go. And the only thing that checks all the boxes is that he had that weapon on his left side.
Yeah.
It was laying on its left side. That's the only thing that solves all the questions. Why the Secret Service couldn't see him, why the casings were on the left, why the rifle maybe sounded different, because you've got your compensator on the end of the rifle aiming up. Well, when it's on its left, it's aiming to the left, and the ejection port is aiming right. So when I got the recording, I was off to the side. So I was, the muzzle blast is going to be different for me with a position in that direction than when it's in prone. Because when it's in prone, the ejection port's now on the right, and the muzzle flash is aiming upward. Now, for the guy that was right in front of the building, it's going to sound exactly the same to him because he's facing the front of the weapon. I'm not. I'm downrange from the weapon to the side. Yeah. So if the weapon's on its left, it's going to sound different than when it's upright.
Yeah, no, 100%. It is going to sound differently. And again, I'm not an audio engineer, and apparently it's funny to me. It's funny to me that how many people suddenly are audio engineers and have so much, you guys snipers. Have so much technical knowledge about audio that you have gleaned from other people. All of a sudden, you're ballisticians and audio engineers, and I'm not. And I'm not an audio engineer, and I don't know how specific you can get with one weapon turned many different ways. I do know that I record shooting weapons for a living, and I do see a big difference when we change things. But I'm open to being wrong on that, and I'm open to there being two shooters. One thing, if you will, Sean, scroll up a little bit. There's somebody talking about the shorts versus up there that said one of them was one yesterday he was in pants, today he's in shorts, something like that.
And then somebody said all videos should have been shorts.
Yeah. I did say that he was in pants. I was wrong, and I put that in the comments. So if you guys got to come at me, and when I get something detailed like that, if I get it wrong, that is really inconsequential, my bad. I saw him in a video. It was real far away. It looked like he was in pants. His legs and his shorts looked the same color. That's what it was. And I was wrong on that. And, if you're going to beat me over the head about that, then if you're just going to be an asshole in the comments, you're going to get banned. I just don't care.
But, I mean, Gary, you look the same way when you wear white shorts.
And I love,
blends in.
Yeah, that's cute. You're banned too.
Damn it.
Yeah. Anyways, so if you're going to be combative in this stuff, or you want to play this gotcha game, have fun, because I'm going to get a lot of these things wrong. And, I'm just doing my best. Again, I'm just a normal dude, man. And I'm going through a lot of information, constantly new information, while I'm sitting there processing new information. There's
new information is coming
in for 30 minutes, and you had new information in this.
Yeah, and then people are like, "Oh, you're skirting around this information." No, I'm gonna skirt around stuff that I don't have enough information to talk about. I'm gonna skirt around things that I don't know. And the fact is that we're all speculating. I don't care if you're talking about Colin and his trajectory analysis. I don't know what subject matter expertise he has in that trajectory analysis. Even if he knows what he's talking about, he wasn't there. And the same thing with Mike Bell, the same thing with me, the same thing with Chris Martinson. There's a level of speculation and room for error that we can't escape, because we don't have all the facts. And let's quit pretending you people over in the comments have all the facts either. We don't. We're all doing our best. The problem is there's a lot of people out there that you've come to these foredrawn conclusions, and the only facts that you'll accept are the ones that reinforce your narrative, the thing that you believe. And I'm not going to do that. And if that's what you want, this isn't the channel for you. I'll just tell you that right now. I don't make my money off of YouTube. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm a guy, I'm a guy that happens to put stuff out on YouTube because I care about the Second Amendment. I care about this country. I care about people being more capable than they are. More informed. Yeah. And I like politics. And I like politics because I'm concerned about this country, man. We have a government that has run amok, that is no longer accountable to the American people, and they don't give a crap. They hold you in contempt that you would even think that you have the right to hold them accountable. That's where we are in this country, and it needs to change. And that's what we're trying to do. So take that for what it's worth. John, what else did you see out there?
It's more, after the fact, the fact that there was no press conferences. Yeah. There should have been a press conference immediately, They should have got up in order. Here's what we know, and it kind of explained to the public what's going on, because then all these conspiracies start to build up.
Right.
Another thing that I thought was really strange was they talked about his car, his gray Hyundai Sonata. Then they talked about his van. Then they talked about his bicycle. How many things did he have in Butler that he was traveling around on? And as it happens, one of the guys I work with, a friend of mine, is Crooks's neighbor. He lives 5 doors down from him. His son's the same age. They went to school together since kindergarten.
Wow.
And the one thing he said about Crooks that his son told him was the one kid who came on and said that he was bullied all through school and all this stuff. That was a total lie. That kid didn't even know him, apparently. And Crooks was actually a bit of a prick, a know-it-all. He thought he was smarter than everybody else. This is according to, my buddy's son. So yeah, that does make sense. Plus the van, he said he's never seen that van in his driveway ever. He has no idea where that van came from. The car, he's not sure what car he drove. He didn't pay attention to that, but he's pretty sure he's never seen that van in the driveway. So I don't know how that was Crooks's van. But even then, normally when they find the vehicle that has the explosives in it, there's camera crews everywhere. Like, here in front of us is the vehicle that, where the explosives were found, and then you see police all around it. I think I saw one grainy photograph of that van, and that was it. And no pictures of his car. Normally they'd be all over that.
Right.
Yeah.
Where is it? Where is it?
Something I found odd, and I haven't had time to look into it, is how quickly that whole area was cleared of everything. Stage, chairs, everything.
That, and another thing I want to go with John, talk about the car. I was only like 1 or 2 instances I saw that he had that transmitter, they said, like laying beside him that looked almost like a keypad for a garage door opener. You heard about it like once and then nothing ever again. They said, oh yeah, there were some explosives in the car. Maybe it could have been for that.
Yeah.
It just
They
went
could have
away.
said, yeah, he hit an atomic bomb. But and you just move on.
It's just like, all right, yeah.
They didn't go off, so this.
Look, I think
I
if we ever hear about the explosives in the van, I think we're going to be disappointed. I could be
his van.
And just to be clear, folks, this is clear speculation. I think that we are going to be disappointed at the level of sophistication what that is, because I know everybody, they hear that there's a remote detonator and they hear explosives. They have the bomb underneath the bus in Speed in mind, like,
quit dating yourself, Gary.
red wire, blue wire.
That was a good movie.
I love Keanu.
It takes nothing for you two to get distracted.
Keanu's a good dude.
But again, here's where my intuition takes us as far as a conspiracy. I think there is without a doubt a conspiracy to keep the government from being held accountable, and they want you to move on as quickly as possible. The other thing that I think is a real possibility, and I will continue to look for answers on all of this and so much more. I think there's a real possibility that we have something that we had like in Michigan, where we had government entities, was FBI, CIA, or something in between. 2 things. Number one, where they knew that this guy was looking to assassinate Trump from whatever information they had, and then just ignored it and let it happen, or maybe even indirectly facilitate it by removing assets or whatever else, or just not sharing that intelligence, right? So there's that. The other thing I think is a real possibility too is where they have coached him, helped him, given material aid and support, just like we saw, and roped him in on this, and he was a willing participant, and they fed him information like, you're going to be a hero or whatever else. I do think that we have a U.S. government that is highly hostile toward President Trump. And it's not surprised. I'm not surprised. I think a lot of people are not surprised that there has been an assassination attempt on President Trump. So, that's my tinfoil hat on.
I agree with you. I when you first came off the range and walked into the store and told me that Trump had just been shot at, I was like, oh, really? But it wasn't that it wasn't that huge, like, oh my God, no way. Like it wasn't that
surprised it didn't happen sooner.
right. I wasn't that shocked. I mean, this has been coming with just the vitriol that is thrown at him and encouraged by the left. So I wasn't that shocked. And yeah, you're spot on with that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
Oh, you're right. You're
I
right.
appreciate it when you say I'm
Mark
right.
it down. 7/31/2024. Gary's right.
John, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, I think it's this ongoing psyop where you take someone like Trump and then you constantly say he's a racist,
Yes.
he's destroying democracy, he's
Hitler.
evil.
Mhm.
He's going to become a dictator. If he becomes president again, he will make himself a dictator and never leave office. He's going to take away all of your rights and just go on. And he has to be taken care of. He needs to be taken out. And they keep throwing these words out there.
Mhm.
And then eventually, the dum-dums out there, it starts to seep into their little brain. And next thing you know, they're on a roof with a rifle.
Thinking that they're doing something, possibly thinking that they're doing something good for the world by saving the world from this evil monster.
Right.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. If I really believed a person was all those things, I would take up arms. I mean, if I really believed that they were going to destroy my country, if I really believed that they were ending democracy, and I know there's going to be 10 comments over there that says we're not a democracy. I know we're a constitutional republic.
10's abbreviated.
I know. We still have a democratic process. So, absolutely. If you tell enough nitwits out there that is the case, and you say something long enough, they're going to believe it, and then ultimately somebody's going to action that information. So I think that is absolutely true. What else, John?
Oh, not much else. I mean, we can go on and on and on. I guess we could talk about the surveillance state and the dangers of central bank digital currencies, and
100%.
that basically gives them total control over your life.
Yeah.
AI, you just go on and on. I mean, once that happens, then all freedom is lost. Once they control your money,
100%.
that's it. It's game over.
Yeah, honestly, it sounds like you've already been watching our podcast, John.
We've
talked about all these things.
We should have had you on long ago, John.
Yeah.
You were our people a long time ago.
No,
Let's go ahead.
Well, just real quick, you kind of seem like you've gotten everything out that you wanted to talk about. And after talking to you on the phone very briefly today, I felt like that was the important part of this podcast, is to just make sure you had a chance to put your story out there, say what you needed to say what you wanted to say, and not be shut down, because we're some mainstream media that has an agenda or wants to put certain information out. So I'm just glad you had that chance to do that.
Yeah, John,
I appreciate that.
And I asked you this before, but I just kind of want to, what was it? Why'd you reach out to us, I guess, is a question.
I watch a lot of different YouTube channels, and yours came on, and I noticed you're I saw the 2A, obviously you're Second Amendment guy, and you're ex-military. I appreciated that, and you also did not have an agenda. You're not looking for a conspiracy.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking for a conspiracy. I'm not looking for the guy on the grassy knoll. Now, if he happens to be there, then fine, he's there.
Yeah.
But I'm just looking at all the information and what makes sense, and plus, with what I did, I was able to recreate that. I was able to put that into action and answer all those questions and check off all those boxes. Then it made sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And and I just needed somebody that understood, what being in prone position means, what it means to have, casings ejected one way or the other. And with the mainstream media, those folks just have no idea. I'm just talking alien to them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, again, I really appreciate you reaching out to us. That means a lot to us. Like I told you earlier, I know you hung out with Martha McCallum, but then you wanted to come over here to the big leagues.
No, I think the biggest takeaway too, John, is what you said. You did the interview with Fox News, and a lot of people on here are just regular old Joe Schmoes. We're going to do our 9 to 5, but it's interesting that you said it was, what'd you say, almost a 30-minute interview that you recorded with them, and they used
about 15 minutes.
Okay, 15 minutes, but they used a tenth of that, is what you're saying, and it was
not
only,
even a tenth.
Right, but it was only to it was used as almost propaganda of what they wanted to, show
Right.
everybody. Oh, this is what this guy's saying. This is all he's about. And I don't think we think that, in day to day for people doing interviews and stuff. Oh, this is probably just what the news, whatever we're watching, CNN or Fox or NBC, blah, blah, blah. This is only what they want us to see. But now hearing it,
We have a first-hand account.
yeah, for the lack of better words, straight from the horse's mouth, we hear it that exactly what you said, but this is only what they showed. That just, that got, it put in perspective to me. Yeah, okay. You just reiterated what everybody in America is thinking, and it's worse than we thought, I guess I should say. It really is worse.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's as bad as you thought it was.
I don't know.
Yeah, there were things that I said in the interview, like positive things about the local police, and they really wanted me to just kind of bash the Secret Service, but at the end of the day, Secret Service had command and control, right?
Yep.
They had all these assets that they should have coordinated, and they didn't. And you can't really blame the local police. Local police are not counter sniper anti-terrorists. They're there to keep the peace, to break up a fight or keep people off personal property, or pull people over for speeding, or what are you doing? Things like that. That's they're not there to take out snipers. But they could have coordinated with the local police, because obviously there was enough of them, because 5 of them showed up. They could have had one police officer just stand there in the grass.
Yeah, they should have.
That's all.
And that is standard operating procedure for an advance. They should have established communications
And coordinated.
prior to this event, and that is how it's normally done. Things can fall through the cracks when you have, here's what I'll say. This is not a defense of the Secret Service, but I will say, they had the RNC going on. They had Jill Biden at some event that she was doing. There was a UN event happening in DC. So they probably were spread thin, but there is absolutely zero excuse for what took place on there. But they don't have unlimited resources. But man, anything that could fall through the cracks did. Every time they came to a fork in the road, they went the wrong way.
But they didn't utilize the resources that they had available either.
No, they definitely didn't. They didn't do what they could have, even with the resources they had. They should have more resources there. They should have had counter surveillance teams out in the parking lot. They should have had people looking around for threat detection. None of that happened. And one thing, you're talking about how we didn't have an agenda, right? And that's one of the things that you came on to this. And one thing I will tell you, folks, if I just wanted views, I would be pushing that second shooter theory. I'm pissing a lot of people off in the comments. I'm pissing a lot of people off out there that I haven't been convinced of a second shooter, because I know you guys are. People are unlike. Thumbs down, Gary. Thumbs down. You don't like the second shooter theory. I'm just trying to go with what I'm just going to have integrity, and I'm going to tell you what I believe. And again, I don't know what else to say to that. We have a bunch of questions. Oh, one question I had from a good friend of mine that was actually, you guys will, well, he's been on the podcast before. He was a former instructor at the Secret Service. Mm-hmm. One of the questions that he had, essentially, that he wanted me to ask you was, did you hear any of the law enforcement on the ground? Did you see any indication that they fired any shots at Crooks while you were there?
No, not from the ground. No.
Now you were basically on the center of that building, and I think later on to the right as we're looking at the building. Is that correct? Is that kind of where you wanted to? If you're looking at the back of the building, I would have gone to the left. If you're looking at the back of the building, so you were going to the high side on the left-hand side.
Correct.
So, because there was speculation that because that was the only side of the roof that I'm aware of that you could see. If you stood back far enough, they would have been able to see Crooks. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yes.
So if there was law enforcement on the ground that shot at Crooks, it would have been from that side, because there's some speculation that's where the 5 shots came from. I disagree with it personally. I don't think that but if there was
that those 5 shots that were the second series was the law enforcement,
local
on
PD,
the ground shooting,
and that's
what
state, whatever.
And that's what our friend.
No way. No, so, there's no way law enforcement would have kicked off 5 rounds that fast out of an AR-15. They would have taken one. They would have taken one careful shot.
I agree with that. If I told him, I'd ask.
Yeah.
But if there was a law enforcement off to that left-hand side facing Crooks along, basically parallel with that roof line, would you have seen them shoot those rounds or heard them?
I would have seen them and heard them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to clear that up.
It definitely came from an AR-15. I know the sound of a 223 or a 5.56. I know that sound. Like a Mustang owner can hear a Mustang coming from a mile away.
I like
You know,
it.
you know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's
Oh,
you
yeah.
know
Oh,
you know what that round sounds like. I don't know what many other guns sound like, but I know what an AR-15 sounds like.
Absolutely.
That's like Gary hearing a Volkswagen Beetle go by.
You're banned.
You already banned him. Now you're
He's
unbanning him.
double banned.
All right. Well, let's do this. Hey, Sean, let's do this. Let's get some questions in here from everybody. Definitely, again, if you guys want a question answered, we will try to get to you, but we're definitely gonna give priority to the super chats. Mendo says, I have a theory on those shots, the 3 slow shots followed by a short pause, then the following faster shots. Left a comment on this video. Okay, we'll look. I'll have Sean look for that comment.
I read it earlier.
Okay.
So I think, and I want to make sure I was pretty close. It was pretty far to the top, Sean. But what Mendo was saying was he took the 3. I'm just giving you a nutshell. Is he took the 3 shots at Trump initially, and then when he went prone is when he started throwing lead at the snipers because he knew that was his last ditch effort of who probably had eyes on him.
I mean, the reality is we don't know where those 5 rounds,
right. And that's what his argument was. Is because you don't know where those bullets went.
We don't know where those went,
and don't have bullets.
Another thing that I think is it's plausible. We have no proof of this. I mean, again, anything we say with these 5 rounds is speculation.
And Mendo, if I was wrong, tell me. But I remember reading that.
One thing that I think is very plausible, which would also explain a very different sound, is again, when he's up there on the roof, he shoots those 3 rounds. Trump goes down. He's done with trying to kill Trump. There's no other option. He's already seen law enforcement moving around his flanks. I mean, it's what I would do if I looked over to my left or looked to my right and I saw law enforcement and I think I'm going to get shot. I would lay down suppressive fire in that direction. Again, speculation, but we don't know where those other 5 rounds went.
He could have been looking at the snipers the whole time and know, all right, I got.
Or he launched rounds at the snipers.
Yeah.
On his look, that first shot, the first 3 shots, but specifically the first shot was his greatest potential for accuracy, precision, and he effed it up. So beyond that, like he could have been aiming at the snipers, the south side snipers that ended up shooting him. He could have been aiming to his left or to his right,
shooting into the pile. Anything.
We don't know. We also what we do know is that he shot those 5 rounds with 0.19 to 0.20 splits. Okay, he was shooting fast. I'm a really good shooter, and I can shoot much faster than that. But what I can't do is hit a target at 150 to 200 yards, which is about, I think, where that second sniper position would be. I'm not going to hit that shooting that fast. I can get those rounds off, but we don't know whether those other 5 rounds. I will say, Chris Martinson, we're going to explore this more. Chris Martinson believes that at least one of those 5 rounds, I believe he said the 3rd one, he believes and he feels like he has evidence of. The 3rd round is actually what hit Corey Comparatori. I don't know that, but that's what he feels. And I Chris is a smart guy.
Now let's just clarify. Where will you be talking to Chris and when?
We will be talking to him right here on his channel and ours tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern time.
So it'll be broadcast on both channels.
It'll be broadcast on both channels,
okay.
providing the Gary can technically pull that off.
Worst case scenario, just be on his channel.
Worst case scenario is just on his channel.
Okay.
I hope not.
Well, sure.
If nothing, I'll screen record it and then repost it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, now getting back to that though, there were 3 people hit plus Trump plus an excavator.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's 5 rounds. So it had to be more than the first 3.
Again, off of good analysis with a high dose of speculation, because that's what we have. If you guys haven't seen Mike, I had it in there, Mike Bell's analysis on the trajectories. He believes that the first round hit Trump's ear, hit David Dutch, went through him, and actually hit the excavator as well. So that's what he believes. And I do think the timeline shows that the first round is what hit well, technically it was a forklift ram, right? The hydraulic ram, and it sprayed everywhere. That was the first round that coincided with that first round.
Okay.
And I do believe that it was the first round that hit Trump. He immediately flinches. So there's that. And again, it's a high dose of speculation, no matter what we are. I will actually let you take this question. If Crooks, no, you're fine. If Crooks was hitting the melon with a 300 Win Mag twice, wouldn't his melon be all over the roof? Yet no gore down range. What am I missing?
First off, was it?
He wasn't hit twice.
That's exactly where I was going.
So
yeah, in my video, it shows when he was hit. The guys in front of me had their cameras on him. I think they were taking pictures though. The one guy, I think he had like a flip phone, and then you could hear that last. You could hear the report from that last shot, and then two guys in front of me said, "Oh," like that because they saw him get hit.
And that was
plus he was up facing us too. After the 9th shot, he was looking at us.
Okay.
It wasn't until the 10th shot that he went down.
See, this is why it's great to have an eyewitness.
100%.
Right here.
So that 9th shot, because after the 8 shots, we hear a suppressed shot, the 9th shot. You think that was from the Secret Service and they missed, or do you have any? But it was the 10th shot that killed him for sure, from your perspective.
Yes, and the 9th shot was closer to me, so whatever counter snipers there were that were closer to my position, it was their shot that went and missed, and it was the 10th shot. You could tell the 10th shot was further away; it was suppressed, but you could still hear the crack. But I believe it was the 10th shot that took him out. Because he was up and he turned his weapon toward us after the 9th shot, and so he was definitely still alive. And then he got hit, and then you could hear the guys in my video, make that sound like "oh," because they saw him get hit.
Yeah, and we hear somebody say, "Oh yeah, a puff of his hair just went up." So let's talk about 300 Win Mag. Number one, I have a picture. I did get a picture of the shooter after he's dead. What I see in that picture is exactly what I would expect to see from 300 Win Mag. Look, folks, when it comes to terminal ballistics, there is no like, this is definitely going to happen. There's kind of like the normal or typical shot, and then the untypical shot, and that can go both ways. Folks, I've seen guys where we're talking about 300 Win Mag, 308, or 5.56. I have seen things that you don't expect to see on both sides of that. Number one, I've seen a guy's shot in different places with 5.56, for instance, and you go up and like, holy shit, 5.56 did that. And then you'll have somebody shot with 308, 300 Win Mag. 50 cal, you can kind of know what they expect. There's not I've never went on top of a dead person, all right, that was hit with a 50 cal. I'm like, you sure that was 50 cal? Like, you sure that wasn't 5.56? But with that said, I've seen people shot in the head with high caliber rifles, and they go through and through their dome. Usually the back of the head is blown out. But again, what I saw there was pretty typical of what I'd expect to see with 300 Win Mag. Look, it's not like the movies, like, things don't just, your head doesn't explode. Sometimes it does,
or it doesn't.
Sometimes it does,
or it doesn't just make a bullet hole and blood runs out and then he just falls over. You know what I mean?
There's a spectrum of terminal ballistic effects that can happen, and that's dependent on the angle, depends on the round that they were shooting, how far they were away, all these things. The skeletal structure, what structures were actually hit, did it go through and through? So let's not turn into, like, terminal ballistics is a science unto itself for a reason.
It was an interesting picture too. I'm glad you shared it.
So to go back to address the comment, number one, he was hit once. And number two, you can't have this expectation of matter being all over the roof.
Well,
because there's
first of all,
different things that could happen.
Yeah.
Number one, usually,
typically, and I think what people are expecting is like these big chunks of meat. And again, that can happen, but a lot of times, man, it's just like a pink mist. It freaking just turns into a mist. And yeah, there's big chunks going everywhere else, but man, and we've only seen a very small section
Yeah, I
of
was
where
about
he
to
is.
say that too.
And then I have the picture that I have is a very close up of somebody that was clearly shot in the face with a freaking 300 Win Mag.
From not that far
Everything
away.
has been rearranged. I didn't see the back of the head, but no surprises there to me. So, you know, there's that. What other questions we got there, Sean?
Ooh.
Yeah, I saw that.
Jordan
Okay.
says 5 rounds went to the U.S. Secret Service. That's why no evidence of those bullets. Suppressive fire to escape. Further from sheet metal reflections, different sounds.
Could. You know, again, speculation. Like
Yeah.
we don't know.
We don't know yet.
Unless you were there.
20
Unless you were an
2081.
accomplice. I think you just incriminated yourself, Jordan. What else we got? Can you please discuss the bullet signature that imprinted by the bolt ejector
Yeah,
and
why wouldn't
barrel?
we talk
Seems
about
this
that
will
yet?
solve a lot.
When will
The
that come
problem
back?
with this question is that nobody believes what's going to come out in the investigation, including me. So, I mean, when
I
they
see what you're
if they came out, I mean, what if they came out and said, folks, the you know, between the casings and let's say they recover some projectiles, yeah, there were 6 different shooters. Are you guys going to believe that?
Right.
When they come out, and I think they're going to come out with this answer, regardless of what happened, they're going to come out and say, hey, we confirm that all these casings came from the same gun.
Mhm.
So
What's that solve?
yes, it would confirm or deny that. I'm just not sure that that information is going to come from a source that you guys are going to believe. The FBI, the U.S. government is now investigating that. I'm sure that information will come out, and you can determine the validity of that on your
They
own.
can probably retrieve that lead out of that hydraulic ram, can't they? Because it didn't go out the other side. It only sprayed on one side, so it probably lost all velocity
Sure.
inside of that.
Yeah,
But I'm sure it's so mangled you can't tell anything either.
Let's talk about that too. You know, I saw somebody in the comments say, "Well, there's no way that a 5.56 round would go through a person, go through her handrail, because it looks like that bullet may have also hit that handrail, and then go through the
Metal.
the hydraulic ram for that.
You mean that 1x6 handrail?
Yeah, an aluminum handrail. First of all, that is absolutely possible. You know, the
All
most
day.
prolific round available to the average American consumer is M855. M855 green tip, and then we also have M855A1. M855 green tip would most likely easily go through all 3 of those, especially if we didn't hit any bone. You know, it was basically a soft tissue shot on David Dutch. So, you know, again, for someone to say that that would never happen, you just don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. What else? Channels like this will expose the truth. Well, I hope so. Oh, we got 2 pounds.
2 pounds.
2
Bro,
pounds.
That's like,
I like
that's
that.
like $87.
Think now with our dollar dropping.
I think it's like $87.
I thought you would like that.
Why was the sniper in the left side of the building window not the one by Crooks, which was on Fox News? Why was the sniper rifle in the left side of the building window? Anybody understand that question? Paul,
Nope.
No.
Paul, if you will, clarify that question. Why was the sniper rifle on the left side of the building
That's
window
another 5 pounds.
not by the one by Crooks?
Now that's like $115.
We're over the pond right now talking to peeps.
We're millionaires now. I think that's like actually like 4 Bitcoin.
I was about to say, can somebody pay us some Bitcoin?
I was going to
That'd be
say, I
cool.
think you just
6
covered
Bitcoin.
my salary for the next 2 years. That's
The
awesome.
magazine
Appreciate
comment
that.
is interesting. Do we know what mag
I did. Yeah, that
Crooks
was interesting.
use? For example, I'm in California and 10-round mag is the limit here. Well, I mean,
We are not in a communist state, so
I'm not
But
bringing
that's should be pretty easy information to find out.
you should be able to see it in the video.
all this information should be easy to find
Well,
out.
I'm just
We just
saying.
never will.
It looked like a 30 round. It looked
Yeah,
like a 30 round magazine.
I didn't see
Yeah.
I didn't see the magazine.
I didn't either.
So you got a pretty good view of the gun there, or are you going off of pictures and videos you've seen?
Just pictures and videos that I've seen. Plus, you'd be hard pressed to find a 20 round magazine.
Yeah.
Or
I
10
mean-
round. Like
Well,
I
will
got
say
a couple
I've
10s, but I'm saying you're going to be able to tell if it's either it's a 20 plus. You know what I mean? 30 is your typical.
I will say
So if it
in
looks like a
Pennsylvania,
typical-
I used to sell a lot of 10-round AR mags because it was required to have a 10-round AR mag to go hunting with it.
Sure.
So
Okay, so they limit
it
that.
may have changed now, but that used to be the law in PA
But
for hunting with an AR.
A lot of times you're going to see, if you have a 10-round mag in there, it's almost level with the mag well. So
Look,
you're not going to see it.
If you're
sticking
going
down.
on an assassination attempt and
I'm not taking
you bring
10.
a 30 round, 10 round
10-round
magazine.
mag. Maybe that's all they
Maybe
had.
that's all you could afford, just the
10
Hornady
round.
match grade, 10 of them.
What other questions do you guys have for John? I think that's most important here. Like,
Yeah.
you know, we don't always,
We don't want to take up too much of his
we
time.
don't want to take
as
up too
well.
much of his time, but we also,
Nah,
there's got to be some questions out there.
I
And the
think
body cam
PC
footage,
answered his own question.
the body cam footage video, the AR Crooks was using was lying well out of reach where the cadaver lay.
PC, that's SOP for law
Yeah.
enforcement. It's got to be out of reach. As soon as they approach the body, live or dead, they're going to move it.
Move it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's SOP.
No, usually, like if you go back to that question real quick, you're talking about the reflexes.
Oh,
I mean,
I didn't answer that
you
one.
take a 3-on-1 mag to the dome, it's just lights out. There's
just-
not
you're
gonna
just
you're not gonna spasm and toss your AR. I've never seen that.
You're just DRT at that point, right?
Dead right there.
Yeah.
DRD.
All right. There.
There.
Oh,
Oh, fair. That's a good question.
Do I think it was a cover-up? I have no idea. I mean, I think there were a lot of things
John
that
said I plead the
that
fifth.
happened to allow would happen to happen. You know, there may have been a conspiracy to, you know, create the environment for that to happen. But
We talked
you know,
about
as
that.
far as but as far as a cover-up, I don't know. There was police that were there, and actually, one of the earlier questions we didn't really answer was about the 5 casings. It was, I believe, local law enforcement that found those first 5 casings. So I would trust that, you know, more than when an agent from the Secret Service showed up with a suit and got on the roof.
Right.
Then I started to, you know, I started to speculate a little bit more about what he was saying.
sure.
And I think there's a quick question too, John, that you'll be able to say or answer. I shouldn't say, but I might have missed it. But the building he was laying on, was that outside of the secure area of the rally?
Yes, and to further clarify that, have you seen the Pac-Man graphic? You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-mm.
No,
It's like if you take the outline of a Pac-Man, which is a circle with a like a pie piece cut out, right?
Oh, it's right.
Pac-Man.
Yeah.
Well, they have the building as being in the mouth of the Pac-Man, like the only part that's not, you know, covered under.
Oh, I see what you're
Secret
saying.
Service section.
Like a pie graph.
Yeah,
And
well,
that's yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So
so that is actually false.
Mm.
It was not a Pac-Man. It was like a half moon. That entire fence line was not covered.
Mm.
So anything outside that fence line was unsecured. You know, none of us went through security.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've wondered that from the get-go, because a lot of people are like, oh, well, there's a guy with a backpack coming in and stuff like that. That's what you heard, like the initial. And I'm like, the more and more I listen and watch videos and stuff, I'm like, I don't think he was in the secure area that you had to go through the quote-unquote checkpoint, or, you know, to get into the facility for that. So that's quite interesting then.
Yeah. John, answer that question right there. It's a good one.
Now, I didn't notice how the sound was different when I was in the moment, because, you know, I'm kind of moving pretty quick, trying to stay out of harm's way. But when I watched the video back, I did hear the different sounds. And my first thought was, there's a second shooter, you know, because it sounded distinctly different, you know. But then I started hearing other people's audio. And then now I also did a test myself. I sent you the video where I went to the range and I tried to reenact that part of it with my phone, because I thought, well, maybe my phone was pointing in the wrong direction, or in one direction one way for the first 3 rounds and then the other direction. And then when I did that at the range, all 8 shots sounded identical, which made me think even more that there might be a second shooter. But then as time went on and I started talking to other people, and I discovered that, you know, there was other factors, like there was a lot of noise that was in front of me when I heard the first 3 shots that could have interfered with my microphone and caused some type of noise canceling to kick in.
Sure.
That could have caused my phone to reduce the sound. Plus, you know, if my theory is correct about how he had his weapon positioned, his muzzle flash would have been pointing to the left instead of straight up for the first 3 rounds. And then the second 3 rounds, he repositioned his rifle, and then it would have sounded different to me. It wouldn't have sounded different.
Ejection port would be
No.
pointing straight up.
I think
Yeah,
he's
both.
too, though. I think I'm getting what he's talking about. If you're talking, if he had a typical A2 flash hider on that, it sprays
Yes.
up to keep your
Sprays
muzzle down.
But
So
it doesn't
when
direct sound. I mean, it's not.
I
That's
know,
not going to affect sound that much.
it could.
It could, but I think he
Yeah.
did you mean your ejection
And the
port?
ejection port too, both the ejection port and the flash hider
Yeah.
with the bird cage or whatever on the front of the barrel.
Yeah.
It aims upward, so it was aimed to the left if he had it on his left. So I don't know how much that would have changed the report coming from the front of the weapon, but that would explain, those two things would explain why it sounded different.
Not to keep the second shooter theory alive, because I am generally opposed to it. I'm not buying the second shooter, but what I will say, because this is information I have, that it's counter to what I believe, but the audio engineer that I talked to last night, again, he's as I'm putting all this stuff out there, generally speaking, he's like, nah. He said basically there is a signature in those rounds that give them very distinct differences that, and again, this is way above my pay grade, but that are very distinct, that are different from one another, that wouldn't necessarily be associated with the direction of all the things that we're talking about. So I'm putting that out there. So
I think you need to go a little bit further and tell people how deep this dude was, how you explained it to me, how he's going out and doing, explain it like you did to me.
I didn't do that on purpose, because I don't want, he was very, he doesn't want to be identified. And I think if I go into that, there's a chance.
I would say, then I can say at least, he is being told specifically they need a sound of a weapon with these specific items on there.
Yeah, he does. He does extremely detailed analysis of many different weapons, how they even ricochets off of certain materials and things like that. But I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
And we may end up having him on. And honestly, if there's other audio engineers out there that can speak to some of this stuff, I would love to have them on and talk to them about this. But what I do know is that 90% of the population that's interested in this all of a sudden are audio engineers, technicians, and you're not. And I don't know either, so I'll just put that.
I just don't want people to discredit him, because what you told me earlier is wow.
A lot of new ballistic experts,
a lot of new
snipers,
that you definitely need to be on the water tower. Oh my God!
Hey Gary,
yes.
So we talk about how inexperienced this guy is. This person actually just posed a really good question, I thought.
Yeah, so he could have had different. So that was one of the questions that I asked this guy. I said, well, what if he had different ammunition? Would that have changed? He didn't think that it would have. Whether we're talking about different projectile weights,
even if he was running subs,
which is what you're talking about, it wouldn't have changed subs, but none of that was subsonic. I don't believe.
I don't believe either, because he's still cracked. But I'm just saying.
But he said
he might have had some Tula in there.
And again, I'd have to have him on to talk about, there was a certain frequency that was coming from that gun, coming from those projectiles that, again, I said, I steel manned him to death. I'm like, what if this happens? What if this happens? Different ammunition, different this, different this.
It was a very long conversation.
It was.
That dude sounds interesting as shit.
I wanted to, and he was pretty adamant that none of that would have changed the particular portion of the frequencies that he's seeing.
Yeah, that he's pointing out.
So take that for what it is.
Well, I have a question.
Sure.
What about the fact that the rifle was cold? So you have a cold weapon, you fire 3 rounds out of it, and then you fire 5 more. Would it make a different sound possibly, the last 5 versus the first 3, because the weapon went from being cold to being hot?
I think if we would have seen a big sound difference, the only cold shot would have been the first one to the subsequent ones. I don't know what that does for sound. I know what that does ballistically. Usually a cold shot is going to be different, is going to have a different point of impact versus the subsequent shots. And what causes that is essentially the cold air barrier inside of that barrel. A lot of long range shooters, what they'll do is actually run some hot air or just get air flowing into that gun before they shoot. That can make a difference. And especially if you're using suppressors, a cold shot can again, you're taking steel that's cold, a air barrier that's cold, and then you're adding another piece of steel and another piece of cold air barrier. So those things, what that does to audio, I have no idea. I don't.
But
I don't
what
know.
you're saying, to answer his question, if there was a difference because of cold barrel versus
I
heated up
think,
barrel, it would be between the first and subsequent,
I
not
think
the third and subsequent 5.
I mean, without
ballistic
measuring-
audio
Yeah.
is not a class
I know.
I've ever.
I'm just
That's
saying
not-
that,
that's not your
your
forte.
that's your theory.
That's my initial thought on that.
Yeah.
What else?
Yeah, because then you'd have to get the. I mean, you would have to so deep
Oh,
dive into
look,
that,
folks,
yeah.
I made
That-
this. I
I like
made
that
this
argument.
extremely sophisticated graphic, so we're
Wait,
going to bring
wait.
this up,
Oh
want me to
God,
grab that?
you're bringing
and-
that over.
and you guys are going to get your minds blown by
You
the
want me to
level
get
of
it?
sophistication.
Yeah, you're closest.
Now I have to get up and
Oh.
talk about it anyhow. So
Oh, okay.
one thing that we're talking about,
We're getting a presentation.
All right, I'm gonna learn something.
I didn't think this through as far as the audio. Anyways, all right, we'll do it.
I'll get your mic. You bringing it to the middle.
You'll still be able to hear me, just not as good.
You're like his personal assistant, Chris. Did you look at that?
Easy on the wall.
All right, let's talk about
Yeah, let's talk that loud.
let's talk about this. Look, you guys didn't put it on big screen. Come on, Sean, get your head out of your ass. Let's get it. Come on, get it up here. Big
I
screen.
have
Oh, Jesus.
2,000 people in the comments.
I don't want to hear your excuses. All
Okay,
right,
fair enough.
so folks,
You're welcome.
let me explain to you what John was talking about as far as he thought he was aiming center mass. I agree with John's assessment completely on this. Folks, whether you realize it or not, for those of you that have done any shooting with an AR-15, generally when we're zeroing, we zero at 25 yards or 36 yards. Sometimes other people zero at 50, 100. Generally speaking, the majority of people, and I have no idea what he zeroed at, but
Or
generally
if he's
speaking-
Or if he's zeroed.
or if he's zero. Generally speaking, people are going to zero at 25 yards. Well, where does that number come from? That number comes from the fact that a 25-yard zero is the near ballistic equivalent of a 300-yard zero. A 300-yard zero gives us the least amount of deviation from 0 to 300 yards. So, we have a ballistic parabolic trajectory, right? This parabolic arc that we have. The thing that you need to understand, if you zero your weapon at either, maybe he went out there and actually zeroed at 300, but he probably zeroed at 25. Most people zero a ballistic equivalent of 300.
near equivalent.
The point of aim and point of impact at 25 yards is the same outside of environmental conditions, windage, things like that. Should be generally the same at 300 yards. This is a rule of thumb. If you actually start taking chronograph information and you get a ballistic calculator out, for instance, the ammo that I use with the muzzle velocity that it has, I've calculated out. It's actually 27 yards for my rifle, the rifle that I'm talking about, with the projectile that I'm using. That being said, he probably zeroed at 25 yards, 300. So what we have is we have a ballistic arc at 150 yards.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This is what we have, the apex of that ballistic arc. It is higher. The point of aim is going to be different from the point of impact all throughout this trajectory. The only time throughout this trajectory that we have a almost exact point of aim versus point of impact is at 25 and 300.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else we need to be accounting for. All right, this ballistic arc. Yeah, go ahead.
Just to clarify, ballistic arc is the path of travel the bullet would take.
No,
No,
it's just directions you're going to get on Yahoo.
no.
Yes,
I'm
it is-
trying to clarify for the people out there.
It's the arc. The arc.
The arc the bullet
All
would
right,
naturally
and what
take.
we call this apex is our max ordnance. All right, so the point is that point of impact at 140 to 150 yards is going to be approximately, depending on the rifle, between on the barrel length, depending on the type of projectile, and ultimately the muzzle velocity and the ballistic coefficient of the bullet is going to be somewhere between 7 to 12 inches higher at 140 yards versus 25 or 300 yards.
So he
what
aimed
John
center
was
mass.
saying is that he probably was aiming high center chest or somewhere around center mass.
shirt button.
7 to 10 inches, 12 to 7 inches, depending on what you're shooting. All right.
Mhm.
Now we're grazing his ear. That's what now with me. All right. If I was shooting, John was shooting, maybe Chris, I don't know what the heck he knows. But I would be aiming at his belly button because I want a high center mass shot. Right. I know that even as good a shooter as I am, at 150 yards, the head is a small target. And really,
And the head
you
moves.
don't even have a head for a target. What you have is there's a lot of stuff that we can shoot in the face and the head and not end up with a a casualty that we would like, right? An immediate kill.
That's what happens.
So typically what we're looking for is I want impacts high center chest, not necessarily center mass like everybody says. I want high center chest. So I'm aiming at the belly button. So at 140 yards, I'm getting the desired point of impact regardless of what my point of aim is, right? So it doesn't matter where you're aiming at, it matters where it's hitting. And I know that at 140, 150 yards, I want to be aiming here because my desired point of impact is here. He probably didn't know this.
Right. Because of your training, you know that.
Yes. Actually, I was just born that way.
I don't know about all that.
I was just born that way.
Jay, he just texted and said, Gary, you're a genius. He wishes he was more like you, but
I've always known that. That's why he's my best friend. All right. So hopefully that was helpful, enlightening.
That's exactly what he said. It said, Gary, you're a genius. Are you single?
He knows I'm always open to a.
Well, that makes perfect sense on what John was saying.
I mean, I did say something about a brother husband the other day.
You better. Now
What
you're
you
just
said
saying
earlier, John, is that he was aiming center mass in this. What he just showed proves that 7 to 12
doesn't prove
inches.
it. Doesn't prove it.
No, it puts
It
more validity
shows
in the
theory.
Well, right, not just that, but you got to look at his follow-up shots.
Yeah.
If he was so good that he missed by an inch on the first shot, shot number 2 and 3 would have either hit Trump or the Secret Service standing next to him.
Right.
100%. 100%.
that.
What other
You
questions?
might need
we
to
have?
turn that into the FBI so they know what's up.
I'm gonna turn you into the FBI. I saw him. He was the man with the one arm. John's video shows
All right.
other phone users taking very steady videos, hiding against the tree, etc.
So
Yes.
I think the question Big Hobo Daddy is saying is we need to see
What a
those
name.
videos.
What is his name again, Summer?
Big Hobo Daddy.
I'm gonna start having you call me that.
That's how I wanted her to
I'm
say
just
it.
reading.
Summer,
I
that
am
is-
reading this.
Hobo Daddy.
Hobo Daddy.
That's my new
You
nickname. I
better turn
want.
your southern accent over that one.
I think he's trying to ask John if he actually witnessed people doing that.
Yeah, there was 2 gentlemen in front of me, but like I said, I think one of them had a flip phone. He was an older guy with he had a Marine Corps shirt on, and I think it was a flip phone or something. He was taking photographs. I don't think he was taking a video.
So
Those
it was
are-
And the other guy was taking a video.
photographs.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, I will say one of the things I thought about when we were showing, I believe a guy's name is DJ, Dave, which I have reached out to Dave. I'd love to, if anybody knows Dave out there or has his contact information, I reached out to him on Twitter or X.
Get it right.
Would love to talk to him. One thing about his video, I thought Michael J. Fox was holding his phone the whole time.
I don't think you
I wish he would have. I wish he would have had a little steadier hand. But what I will say is, John did send me his videos. I've obviously seen and obviously posted some of his portions of his video peripherally, but I am going to go through his videos. Now that I have like the original video, I can go through there. I can look for more details. I don't know what information. Is there anything that your videos? Obviously, your video has become very prolific, John. Is there any videos that you have now or parts of that video that you've posted that you've looked through and you've seen more information that you didn't see before?
Well, definitely, and it would be at the end of the video whenever I was zooming in. Actually, not when I was zooming in, just when I was standing behind the guy that had the Marine Corps T-shirt. If you zoom in, since I gave you the original file, you could zoom in, and I don't know what your skills are with Photoshop and stuff, but
Pretty
you
good.
can actually see Crooks. You can see him if you increase the DPI and zoom
Really?
in on it. You can see him, and it, like when I zoomed in on him, the hair stood up on my arm.
Well,
I could not believe he had sat up, rotated his weapon, and pointed it right at us. And as soon as the weapon was pointed at us, that's when the Secret Service shot him.
So he was about to just
Start
firing
suppress
into
a
the
fire.
crowd.
Yep.
Yeah, he had scurried down the roof a little bit at that point too. He was no longer up by the ridge. He had already started his egress.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
So he fired, and that was after the 5 shots too, right?
Correct.
He fired the 3, fired the 5. Now,
Hmm.
did you see when he was firing? Did you see his muzzle? I mean, I'm sure you were looking for cover, but what was going on with that? Did you see any of that?
No, he's my photos look kind of deceptively close, but he was actually pretty far from us.
Gotcha.
But when I zoomed in, it looked like he was right in front of us, but he was not. He was pretty far down that roof line. And whenever I did see him with my naked eye, all I could see was his head. It wasn't until I looked at my video and then I was able to zoom in that I actually saw him.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's
By the
wild.
way, Gary, Big Hobo Daddy said his name is trademarked, so you can't use it.
How about Little Hobo Daddy?
Oh, you want to be Little Hobo
Mhm.
Daddy? Huh?
You know, it's a play on words. It's like the opposite.
Yeah,
I don't
okay.
Actually, you
I
know
don't
what I
get
mean?
it.
All right. Now that's interesting. Now, again, you're one of the first eyewitnesses I've talked to. Do you did you hear any rounds coming from the direction of the water tower?
Not that I know of. No.
Did you hear any gunshots taking place other than what you would think was generally in the direction of where you know Crooks to be?
Other than the 2 counter sniper rounds, no.
Yes.
I believe the 8 rounds were all from Crooks.
Okay. Was shooting down in bulletproof vest? Was shooting down? I don't understand that question.
Mando's next question is a good one, though.
I think he was asking if he was trying to, compensate for some sort of bulletproof vest that he was wearing.
Who was wearing
The
Trump?
Crooks.
Trump.
Oh,
I don't think Trump had a bulletproof vest.
Nah.
He could have some light ballistic armor on underneath there. That's a possibility,
Pulled a
but
John
I don't
Wick
know.
suit jacket or something like that.
Yeah, and again, this is I'll tell you, you don't have to be a Green Beret to know this shit. Like I would, if I'm doing that, even you guys that play Call of Duty, my 10-year-old, my 14-year-old, like, hey, this guy's using some light ballistic armor. What should we use? Dad, we should use green tip or some sort of penetrator round. So even if he was using unless he has plates, it's not going to stop green tip. So I would have, even if I thought Trump was wearing some sort of, level 3A type of soft ballistic armor, I would still be aiming high center chest. What's this next question? John, do you think you blocked sound with either the tree, your body, or even your hand to get close to get those different sounds in those shots?
I don't think that had anything to do with it. Like I think it was probably something to do with my phone blocking out ambient noise. So there's probably some type of noise cancellation going on.
Right.
Combine that with, like I said, with the weapon being in different positions. What I believe, anyway, of course, it's speculation. If the weapon was in different positions for the first 3 versus the last 5, that could also point to a difference. But I sent you a video where I did a test at the range where I have my phone pointing in one direction for the first 3 rounds, and then I turned around for the last 5 rounds. It sounds identical. So it had nothing to do with my phone positioning.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing too, folks. Again, we keep going back to sound, and I'm just giving you the audio information that I have from a professional so that we're not stuck speculating. And that is, he said, look, they have at least 5 different sources of audio. They know where those people were. And this is the same thing that Chris Martinson over at Peak Prosperity is doing. And that certain signature comes up on all 5 of those. And I mean a certain signature, the different signatures of the first 3 rounds versus the follow-on rounds. So the phone proximity and these are again all over the place, like far away, close. Those are all confirming one another, and that's essentially what he was telling me. Is like, the problem is if we only had one phone, that would be one thing, but we have like 5 different sources of audio that are all showing us the exact same thing. We definitely need to get a audio engineer on that can talk more in depth and either confirm or deny some of that information.
It would be really interesting if we could find an audio engineer that analyzes
I think more
gun
fired. I think more importantly, what's interesting, we got John in here. That's what I think.
Yeah,
So
no, it's been great.
No,
to have
I've been truly interested in talking with you, John, and having a first-hand account. And again, hearing the whole story and not just being, pigeonholed on what this is what everybody wants to hear. The bad stuff. The Secret
or
Service
wondering
sucks.
if you're getting a certain narrative.
Yeah, it's been great. And then even with people being able to ask the questions they have in their brain, even if and hearing your thoughts on it, or what Gary had in his brain, or what our buddy that's texting us, that's Gary's friend has on his brain. So you were there. There's not many people that's coming forward that was there that can recount with accurate details that were there.
Yeah.
That, you know,
Well,
that's the biggest thing.
And that also has some knowledge and experience with the type of
With,
weapon.
with firearms.
Right. And
Yeah.
can go out to the range and try to recreate some of this stuff just for your own knowledge and because you're interested to try to figure out what happened. But yeah, that's amazing.
Well,
You
the
like-
other
you-
big thing is too, is with getting you on, John, now is because every day that goes by, it gets a little foggier for people.
Mhm.
And having this on now is, you know, I'd love to talk to you a day after, but it's just, it starts getting foggy and foggier and foggier. And hearing everything you said now and like digging into your brain, it's, I don't know. It sometimes it makes me think I have more questions, and sometimes it puts me more at ease. All right, there was just one, you know, S bag, but I don't know.
Well, here's what some
I don't
people
know.
out there are thinking. John, you're pretty much the perfect eyewitness, which seems a little too convenient. I'm just saying.
He knows how to shoot an AR.
Yeah.
He's going out recreating it again. Make sure. Mhm.
Yeah.
Watch
No,
it- watch
I think
yourself,
I think
John.
we were.
I'm glad you don't live near us.
I mean, it was just eating at my brain.
Oh, I would have
You
done
know,
the same thing. I get it.
Like the first thing, like why didn't the Secret Service shoot him after the first 3 shots? And that's what really promoted me to, or made me want to go out and try to recreate this thing. And I just pretended like I was Crooks. I got on the roof, you know, a table, and I thought, how am I going to hide myself from the Secret Service? And immediately, like I said, as soon as I went to get in the prone position, my magazine hit the roof, and I wasn't able to conceal myself. So then I'm like, okay, well, how do I do this? And then I did it as if I was trying to conceal myself. And then I didn't know at the time, but that also answered the other questions of how did the 3 casings get to my left, you know, and things like that.
No,
Here-
it might have thrown him off from the beginning because he might not even thought about that. Just like you didn't think about that. He got up there and went, "Oh shit," you know.
Yeah.
From
Oh
the-
yeah, you could see him when he was climbing up. He was pulling himself up on his stomach. He wasn't, you know, he wasn't low crawling. He was like dragging himself up the roof. So that tells me he's trying to keep as low profile as possible. And because
Well,
he's in an elevated position, he had to have his barrel over the ridge though, because he
yeah.
was elevated.
You only want to be this much exposed, just the eye
Well,
level.
right.
Yeah.
And that roof, given the pitch, the very slight angle that it had on there, it didn't provide as much
No.
concealment as
It
you probably
was-
would like. Here,
It's like 412 pitch.
here's
There's
something that
nothing.
I would
Maybe
love to do,
512.
John. I don't know if anybody from Butler, Pennsylvania, law enforcement are out there, or the people that control the AGR building. I would love the opportunity to go up there and recreate that. Actually, bring a gun up there. Make sure we have law enforcement. Make sure people knows what's going on. That we're not going to be shooting. You know, make sure it's cleared. Hell, I'll remove the bolt or whatever else. But I would love to recreate that scenario. It's only about 2 hours from us. If we can't do that, John, I'd love to have you down here. Number one, I've already talked to you about it. We'd love to have you out some courses. Come train with us. We'd love to meet you in person. But we could actually, we have a
That'd be
full range
awesome.
complex out here. We can try to simulate as much best we can the pitch of that roof, the ridge line of that roof, which looks elevated to me 4 to 6 inches.
We'll just have Chris build a building.
We just have Chris build a building.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm already,
but
it's,
you
I'm already
know,
going burning my mind
thing,
now.
the other thing that I do that has really been eating at me that I want to confirm is the grade, the elevation of that roof in comparison to Trump.
With the
I
dirt,
think
yeah.
I think we're going to find out, not the dirt, but where
No,
Trump
the dirt
was.
going up to him and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
being
yeah,
elevated. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So-
everything.
You know, we have a 6 foot, what is he, 6'4", 6'3"? We have a 6'3" guy on, from what I can tell, about a 5 foot platform. So
Mhm.
that's going to put him right at 11 feet. And I have a good suspicion that that is pretty much parallel
Well,
with the top of that roof.
if you think
line.
about it, typical wall height's 8 feet plus the slope of the roof, you know, depending on 412, 512, 612 pitch of the roof, you're going to add another 2 to 3 feet. I mean, you're dead nuts on being that
Well,
exact height
and
and being
easy-
shooting flat on him.
And the easy thing for us to do too would be to, again, I have some pretty expensive rangefinders that have declination built in. But we could actually put up a target at around 11 feet. We could get a rangefinder hit on that, and it will tell me negative, positive, or zero elevation
Right.
within a high degree of accuracy. So,
No, you're pretty close on all that because of that low pitch of that roof.
Yeah. and these are all things that the average person doesn't think about, and I get it. And
Wow,
you know,
day,
yeah, exactly. We got another
If I
question.
had to guess, I'd say he probably had about 10 feet of elevation over Trump.
About 10 feet.
Yeah.
Good to know. Yeah.
From the ridge of the roof to Trump's head, there was probably about a 10-foot elevation difference.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Yep.
Okay.
That'll be
That's
interesting.
my best guess.
Yep.
Hmm.
Ask him if he encountered the man saying he was property owner, saying all of those by the fence line and east parking were trespassing.
Yes, that's a tricky story. So there was a guy in a red truck. He came out and he started yelling at everybody. I wasn't there yet. I was actually driving, looking for parking. And I don't want the conspiracy people to take this too far. I'm pretty sure the guy worked there, but he came out and he yelled at people to leave. So he pulled his truck in, parked, got out of his truck, told people to leave the area, not the whole area, just from behind the building. So he didn't say get off the property. He just said move over to the other side where these other trees were. My wife was there. She got some of this on video, and then somebody was arguing with them, and then he left, and then he came back, and there was a little bit more of an argument. He was arguing with another spectator, and then I guess the police saw what was going on. They were on the secure side. They actually drove up in cars. One of them was a sheriff's deputy, and the other one was in a regular police cruiser. And as they were driving up, the guy who was trying to trespass everybody left. He got in his truck and he drove off. So I thought that was weird. I'm like, well, if the police are coming, don't you think he would want to say, hey, guys, can you tell these people to get off the property?
Huh.
But as the police started showing up, he left. And I really, I put my tinfoil hat on for this one. So I got him on dash cam, parked there, and then leaving. And then my psycho brain went to Google, and I looked at Google Street View, which happened to be in the parking lot of AGR, and I found his truck. So the guy works there. Now, so when you look at the guy, he just looks like a typical blue collar worker who's pissed off that people are on the property. I didn't really say anything about it or show anybody that footage because I really don't think he had anything to do with anything nefarious. I think he just wanted people off that property. It's just strange though that when the police started coming down to check on what was going on, that he left. That part I thought was kind of strange. If you're really trying to get people off the property, you wait for the police to get out of their vehicles and say, hey, tell these people to get off my property. But he didn't. When the police came, he got back in his truck and he left. And when he left, he drove through the grass. He drove around the cones and drove through the lawn. So I thought that was kind of strange. But, at the end of the day, he obviously worked there because you could see his truck in the Google Maps. So I didn't really go any further than that. And I didn't really share that video with anybody.
Interesting. Sean, there was a question up there about somebody asking about in the picture, could you see a penetration? Yeah. So you can actually see in the picture that I have of a dead.
And no, we're
Crooks.
not putting it out.
No, we're not putting it out.
Oh, can you see it? Oh, you can see the penetration.
Yeah.
You can see it.
It's above his left eye.
He got hit with a
And
high-speed piece of lead.
And you can tell that all of the hard structures behind his face are basically pretty much gone.
I would say like a bowl of oatmeal.
Yeah. So
His skin was hanging.
yeah, it's like a hole that looks like a small trunk. So
A baby, yes, elephant. Elephant.
Yeah, if you look hard enough for that photo, you'll find it.
I'll tell
sure.
you, I looked high and low. I went through different browsers. I couldn't find it. I had somebody send it to me that did have it. So I don't know if it's been scrubbed, but
I wouldn't want to get hit with that thing.
yeah.
I guess I wouldn't know it either.
What other questions we have? Let's take another 5-10 minutes, answer some questions, and then we'll go from there. Did John see Crooks running across roof? Video on Fox in last hour, plus has video of Crooks belly crawling.
No, I didn't see any of his movements prior to the shots. I just heard people yelling that he's walking across this, he's crawling up that. You could hear people pointing or hear people yelling and see them pointing to the roof. So, and we ignored it because, like I said, we just thought it was some kid or something like that just crawling around.
But you did say you saw him pulling himself on his belly.
Only in the videos. Like if
Okay.
you, there are videos that
Gotcha,
show him.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can see him dragging himself up. He's like the roof is kind of corrugated. It's like in
Right.
these
I just
like
want
has
to
it
clarify what you actually saw and what you didn't.
right. Yeah, I did not see it. I saw the video later. Yeah.
Yeah, and I will again. All this kind of happened so fast. We talked to like I don't know, maybe 2 p.m. or something, and I was like, "You want to come on tonight?" And you were like, "Yeah." And then you sent me a bunch of information, and I was trying to put the stuff up and do all this other stuff. So I haven't had a chance to go through the footage that you sent me, but I definitely will. And yeah, no, I appreciate that so much. Jeremy Kolb up there, answer that
Yeah, like I don't know what he's talking about.
because they didn't have the latest.
Maybe he's referring to
He's
somebody else.
referring
he's
to
talking
another
to somebody
question.
else.
There was
At
another.
Dick- at Dixon.
That's not the. He asked another question earlier, and he's somebody that we know.
Oh, here you go.
I don't know that
Is
that's who you're
John
thinking about.
is John former LE plus isn't the reason for the rangefinder to compensate for that you're not compensating for Parabella, but go ahead.
I don't even understand that question.
I guess let's address the first one. Are you former law enforcement officer?
Oh no. I was in the Army. Didn't see any combat despite my efforts. I went in 1990. I tried to go to Iraq, but that war was way too efficient. They actually grabbed us at the airport right after our AIT training. We were at the airport ready to deploy to Iraq, and literally before we got on the plane, some sergeant came up with new orders and then redirected us to our, like I ended up in Fort Hood.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What unit were you with?
1st Cavalry Division.
Okay, nice. 1st Cav. Thank you for your service, John.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Other questions? What else we got up there? Tell us, what are your conclusions about the incident?
I don't know there's a conclusion yet.
Well, don't speak for the man. What are you trying to push the narrative? Oh my God.
I didn't know if he was asking
Ask John.
us, asking John, asking
Jeez,
all of
Pete,
us.
you're a deep state.
I am a deep
Folks,
state,
She's a deep state operative.
obviously.
I'm working on it. Go. John, do you have any conclusions? What is your conclusion?
There's more questions.
Yeah.
I mean, I think some things have been. I think there's enough answers out there to say that there probably was not 2 shooters. I mean, if somebody comes out and proves that there was 2, then yeah, I'll take a look at that. But everything I see, I think there's only 1 shooter. I think right now we need to look at, what led up to it, what's being done to keep it from happening again. Were some things done on purpose? Did this person have some kind of help? There's a lot of questions out there, regarding his cell phones, overseas accounts, things like that. I mean, you're really getting into the weeds there, but there's enough to keep people busy for a long time. So, yeah,
There's enough in people's
questions
heads
will never
to
be
keep busy
answered.
for a
Oh
long
my
time.
God, yeah.
Yeah.
What other questions, Sean? Any other significant questions up there?
That'll be the last one.
All right. So
Last question. That's what Sean said.
all right. What'd you get us for a giveaway?
There's a giveaway?
Oh no, I was saying this one up here could be the last one.
Sheesh.
Yeah,
Can I get in on
he's
it?
saying that could be the last
Yeah,
question.
this one could be
Okay.
the last
Well, I
one.
told everybody we were going to do a giveaway tonight. I sent you a text.
I didn't have time to.
Can I go pick something out of the safe?
No.
Well, let's come up with something.
Okay.
Let's come up with something.
Well, let's see.
No, I'm thinking about what's at the store, not my own personal stuff, Chris.
gives us ideas.
Jesus.
I like. Where's it at?
What?
That thing's pretty sweet. What are
Oh,
you
we ain't
pointing
giving
at?
away that.
That wheel gun.
There's 2
No.
Chuck E. Cheese.
That thing's badass.
We can't.
What'd you say? It's a gift certificate to Chuck E. Cheese.
No, talk about Chuck E. Cheese tokens. So this is the last question I figured.
What do we got here? I know what we're going to give away.
Okay.
I got an idea.
Oh wait,
Tell me what
I
you
need
get.
to vet this first.
All right. Question. Isn't the parabola the justification for a rangefinder? Haven't shot that far before, and it would never have occurred to me to compensate for that. No. All right. And I think what you're actually talking about is the rotation of the earth. That we don't need to worry about that. There's a parabolic arc, but yeah. So, anyways, all you're trying to do with the rangefinder. Well, there's 2 things. Number one, he could have just been using the rangefinder as a small handheld device to see at distance. He could have been actually ranging the target. All those things are possible. I don't know. So, there's that. But and maybe he did. But I'll tell you, folks, you could even come up with maybe he knew to compensate. Change his point of aim to to get the desired point of impact. He may have been smart enough to do that, but under stress, all that shit goes out the window. Every single course that we do at the end, we do a culmination exercise, whether it's handgun, carbine, all this stuff that we spent hours and hours training on people. Suddenly we put them on a shot timer. We put them in a scenario. We make them do these things, and they fall apart. Right? It's a normal thing. So that is not uncommon. So just think about that.
Oh, also one more thing. The gentleman who shot that other video, I think his name's David, right?
Yeah.
Is it David?
I think it's Dave. It's like
look at his video, how shaky it is.
Yeah.
Imagine if he was the shooter. I mean, he can't even hold a camera straight, and he's just trying to document something.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly what we're going to give away tonight. Well, we're going to, number one, we're a Microtech dealer. So we are going to give away a Microtech knife.
That was something else I was thinking.
Well, you didn't think of it fast enough, babe. I'm sorry. You got to get on.
Sometimes I wish I was just watching.
So we're going to give away a Microtech, and while I'm thinking of that,
are we doing
100,000 subscribers. Hopefully we're at 200,000 tomorrow, because we'll do another giveaway as soon as we hit 200K.
So every 100K is a giveaway.
We're gonna do a knife and probably 2 other items.
For what? 200K?
What's that?
No,
For
tonight
200K?
there's a first, second, third place. You just
200,000. Yeah.
Yeah. No, for 200,000.
200,000.
Yeah.
3 play. Okay.
How are we gonna do it? We got so many people on this thing.
Yeah, I'm used to doing this with 40 people, not over 20.
All right. Here's what we're gonna do.
Wait.
This is the only way that I know to do this, and Sean doesn't know any of these people on here.
No.
What he's going to do is he's just going to go
scroll
through
and randomly.
he's going to scroll real quick.
So
and
if you have commented,
if you've commented,
that's what you need to do. Yeah.
all right, then you're going to get something. Or whoa, Gary,
Right.
shut up.
Right.
If you commented, you have a chance of getting something. So here's what we're doing. We're going to give away a Microtech knife. We're going to give you your choice of what we have up at the shop. We have a full selection of the Microtech knives.
I guess I better make sure the stock is updated on the website.
Hold up, I'm gonna comment.
If you guys don't know, those are anywhere from $300 to $500 knives. Out the front,
Chris.
American made.
Some of them are out the front. Some of
I
them
got
are
one.
folders.
Yeah, some of them are folders. Again, you probably go online at ParamountTactical.com. Go spend a whole bunch of money there.
And I need to throw a disclaimer in there. Some states it is very much illegal to ship it out the front.
We'll work that out.
We'll work it out.
We'll get them smuggled into you or something
Chris,
like that.
Chris threw a comment.
Chris will he will put that in his prison purse and actually smuggle it across state lines to you.
You will.
All right. So the first one is a Microtech knife. Be thinking of item number 2.
Oh, we're doing item 3
he said
tonight.
tonight. He said tonight.
Doing 3 tonight.
You just said for 200,000.
I said we'll do it again at 200,000.
Gotcha.
All right.
So I'm thinking I'll just scroll it, and whichever name my cursor falls on when it
You
stops.
can make sure you
will
get
be
to
it.
the bottom now.
Oh, we're all ready now. All right, ready?
Oh, that looked like you cheated.
Yeah, you did.
Well,
all right. Peter Morsink, you have won a Microtech knife.
You got to send us an email, Peter.
Send us an email, Peter. Services at ParamountTactical.com. Services at ParamountTactical.com. And you will get your choice of knife.
Okay, I got the next item.
What's the next item?
We're going to give away one of your favorites, which is the Fix It Sticks, the Works toolkit with the all-in-one torque driver.
And by the way, we're also going to be giving John one of those. John, you're a shooter. If you're not aware of the Fix It Sticks cool toolkits, we want to thank you for coming on. It's just a small token of our appreciation.
Oh, awesome! Thank you.
You're awesome.
Make sure you email me. They're handier than toilet paper in the woods.
You damn right.
So the next one, Fix It Stick all-in-one toolkit, and Fix It Sticks is a sponsor of our Long Range Academy. If you guys are interested in shooting long range, go to ParamountTactical.com. Sign up for Long Range Academy. All right.
So we can do more giveaways.
I like that plug.
We can do more giveaways.
all right, ready?
Yep. Spin it. Who do we got?
That was a good one, actually.
Doc, you got a Fix It Stick toolkit. Doc, send us some sort of bona fides to services at ParamountTactical.com. Make sure that we know your username and all the good stuff on there.
I'll go back and vet, make sure they're the right doc.
Yeah. Cool.
Got to
And
be the
then-
right dot.
All right,
The-
what's
the
third
the
item?
third should probably be a caracal, right?
No, the
Shut
third
your
item.
mouth.
The third item is going to be one of the Cross-Tac XXL rear bags that.
No. Let's not everybody's a shooter. Let's just pair of Wiley X. Wiley
Okay,
X.
fine.
Ooh,
We're
I
gonna
like
do
that.
a pair. We're a Wiley X dealer. Look at the self promotion going on here. Shameless plugs. Shameless plugs. Go to ParamountTactical.com. But we're gonna do a again. We have a full stock of different Wiley X
I like Wiley
sunglasses.
Xs.
Very nice glasses. You'll get to choose whichever one you want.
Well, that's going to be kind of difficult. How about I'll just
What we
choose a-
have in stock.
I know, but it's not on the website yet.
Okay,
So I'll choose a very nice pair. How about
there
that?
you go. Summer
I'll-
has good taste.
I do have
Summer's
good
fa-
taste.
she's
Look
a
at her taste in
fashionista.
men.
Eh,
All
Look
right.
at her taste in men.
Go ahead, spin it. Wiley X sunglasses.
There it is.
Proud bro-
It is
Proud
Proud
bro-
birther.
Proud
Proud
birther.
birther.
I noticed this name
Oh,
earlier.
Dear
I did.
God, I love
Yeah,
it.
he's been,
I love it.
Proud-
All right,
proud
proud
birther.
birther. Send us an email, services@ParamountTactical.com, and you will get your own Wiley X sunglasses.
Congrats to all three people. That's awesome. We haven't did a giveaway since it was like Christmas.
I know.
That's
We
awesome.
have.
We'll
Since
have to do
Christmas.
another
Not
one.
not a 3-year,
Not a 3-year. No.
We'll have to do another one
That was
very soon
200K. You
at
said it.
200K. Hopefully next week. Next week we'll do it.
I can't wait to see your plaque either. By the way. for
Well,
the
listen,
100K.
John's hang tight. We'll talk a little bit after
Yeah.
we shut this thing down. But listen, we really do appreciate everybody coming on. Again, tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. we will have another eyewitness on. I'm very excited to hear what he has to say and kind of compare stories and see what different people are going to see things differently and different perspectives. And it's we need to get as much eyewitness information as we possibly can. That's where the truth will come from. Not all this wild speculation where we're all trying to be, part-time scientists. But we really do appreciate the support. If you guys want to support our work, again, Patreon. The other way that you can support us is, buying gear from us, ParamountTactical.com. If you're into, I got to be careful what I say because we're on YouTube, CommieTube. But if you're into those types of things, because we are a Second Amendment absolutist. I don't care if you like it or not.
Hey.
But we also have a lot of things for people if you're not into those kinds of things
100%.
as well. We're into preparedness. We're into outdoor gear.
And you also offer high-speed evasive driving courses.
Yep.
we
Off-road driving courses.
Yep.
folks, for those that you aren't aware of us,
Yeah.
most of our instructors are former special operations. All of them have real world experience, and they have formal and professional instructor experience. So they've been there, they've done that, and they teach for a living. So if you're interested in learning anything the right way, whether it's handguns, learning to defend yourself, fight with a gun, carbine, long range, we do advanced medical courses, driving courses. We do security consulting work. We do a lot of stuff out there. So go to ParamountTactical.com, look at our training schedule. We'd love to have you out. We'd love to meet you in person. And if you want to learn how to do things the right way, go to Paramount Tactical. What city are we in? Our training facility is in Summit Point, West Virginia. We're about an hour and a half from DC, near Winchester, Virginia, but Summit Point, West Virginia. Or you can go to Google, look at Paramount Tactical Solutions. All of our information is right there. And we'd love to have you out and do some training with us. And we really do appreciate the support if you buy from us as well. What else?
I just let them know that your calendar is coming out for the bikini year of 2025. So look for that on the website.
The bikini year.
Yeah, your bikini outfit for the year 2025. Sorry, I misspoke.
Chris
Forever.
wants you to do a calendar.
You are
Gary.
also banned again.
Again.
Third time's the charm.
All right, folks.
lot of
Listen,
people in the
we
comments
appreciate
said
you
that.
coming on, John. Thanks so much for coming on and sharing your story with us. And yeah, if you guys
That was
need anything, make sure you like, subscribe, all those things. Share this video. Once this video goes live or stops being live, and it's just
Gets
on
posted.
YouTube,
Mhm.
all these comments go away. So we'd appreciate if you go back on there and comment, like, and share, and all that other good stuff. It helps us get the information out. But again, we really appreciate it. And until next time, stay armed, stay ready. We'll talk to you soon.